What's going on, summoners? Welcome back to another ProGuides Wild Rift video. It's about that time of the patch week. That's right, the time to go over our low elo tier list for patch 2.3c. By gauging each champion's overall strengths and weaknesses, we created this tier list for when the champs are played in ranks platinum and lower. Hope you guys enjoy, make sure to sub to the channel, and let's get right into it. Starting off our tier list, we have the Baron lane. Even in the low elo, Fiora is incredibly strong, rightfully earning her place as an S tier pick. She has great sustained build thanks to the natural regeneration built into her vital points, alongside her fantastic synergy with Grasp of the Undying. But unsurprisingly, she's still a phenomenally hard champion to master since her mechanics require a firm understanding of enemy playstyles alongside a solid foundation in comboing skills. Despite nerfs to her base health in patch 2.3c, Fiora's sustain allows her to scale into a hyper carry monster. But before we move on, we got our question of the day. What are y'all most excited about for patch 2.4? There's a lot coming our way, and I'm personally really hoping the ranked and matchmaking fixes will shorten queue times. But let me know your answers in the comments down below. Now, the second champion up in Baron lane is Darius, another noob stomping machine, rightfully earning the S tier in this specific list. Yeah, in higher elos he's not as strong of a pick since experienced players excel at punishing his biggest weaknesses, such as a lack of gap closing and escapes, but our biggest tip if you want to win against the Darius is to shut him down before he gets big. In the lower elo, however, the axe-wielding behemoth often snowballs too hard for less experienced players to properly react, resulting in a tanky monster that destroys and hard carries games. And the last Baron lane pick for the day is Garen, in the overpowered tier for this list. He's been hit with a couple of nerfs here and there, but his base playstyle remains the same: deal damage and heal obnoxiously fast. Without a doubt, he's not as strong as he once was back when all the content creators were talking about how OP he was, but he's still pretty strong, and since he's super simple to play, he's great for the typical noob to try and pick up. So if you got a friend that you want to introduce to Wild Rift and you're worried about them dying too much, just tell them to lock in Garen and leave them on an island in the Baron lane. So here's the full Baron lane tier list. Now, before we move on to the jungle picks, I want to remind everybody that in order to help us keep making these videos, it would really help if you hit that subscribe button and liked the video. I put a lot of time into these to help everybody get better at the game, so having your feedback really helps too. So comment down below what kind of videos you want to see from us in the future, and also some of your favorite series that we're already doing. Also, make sure to check out the ProGuides Wild Rift community Discord in the description down below too. There's all kinds of fun events that we have going on, and if you want to find friends to play the game with, you're not going to find a better place. Now moving on to the jungle picks, our first pick is Wukong. He's been monkeying around in Wild Rift, spinning and twirling to knock up all of his foes. Thanks to his invisibility, solid consistent damage, and amazing CC, Wukong makes for a pretty strong jungle pick, earning himself an A tier for our tier list. Knowing how to abuse his brief invisibility makes for some insane ganks, especially if you combo your ultimate thereafter. Try to maximize the amount of enemies that you knock up while keeping a close eye on your allies' positioning to see if they can realistically follow up your long-range engages. So if you're looking for a strong, engaging jungler to lead the charge, make sure to try out the Monkey King. Now the second jungler up is Amumu in the B tier. The said mummy isn't very strong, especially in light of the nerfs that came to his armor in patch 2.3c, but in the lower elos he's actually significantly more viable than in higher. His biggest weakness is a counter invade in the early game, and with less armor to deal with the damage of the invaders, the Amumu pick carries a much higher risk now. Yes, his teamfighting capabilities are still really good, especially if he can hit a fantastic ultimate, but until then, he's simply not the strongest pick. But then again, most players in the lower ranks lack the knowledge to effectively counter jungle and punish Amumu, so if you really want to play him, just go for it. Just make sure to keep in mind his weakness and not skirmish early in the jungle. Now our final jungler for today is Evelynn. She's such a strange topic right now, since she's been known for being incredibly overpowered for pretty much the entire game. Then she received a bunch of nerfs in a row, directly impacting her kit, only to benefit right after from some system jungle changes. Basically, players don't seem to be abusing her at the moment, but we at ProGuides still think that she's really strong. For this specific low elo tier list, we actually still have her in the overpowered picks. A lot of her weaknesses are now more exploitable since her base damage is lower in the early game, but since junglers gain mana at a significantly higher rate, Evelynn is perfectly capable of AFK farming until she can completely take over games with her broken invisibility mechanic. So here's our full jungle tier list. Moving on to the mid lane, Diana is an S-tier monster that excels at steamrolling games with her numerous and incredibly annoying dashes. Throw out her Crescent Strike to mark enemies, then dash to each subsequent one thereafter. If you time this well, nobody will be able to catch the nimble, moonlight-wielding mage. Her ultimate, Moonfall, decimates enemies when fully charged, so make sure to position safely and cast your ultimate to help ensure your allies' victory. And next up, another S-tier pick, we got Ahri. She's strong for a multitude of reasons, but one of the primary redeeming features of Ahri's kit is the full capability of sneaking past the enemies unscathed. The dash from her ultimate allows her to jump past walls, sneak up on enemies, and position effectively to land the rest of her skill shots. Hitting Ahri's charm is absolutely essential to making the most of the pick. After all, if you hit the charm on an isolated squishy champion, and then chain the rest of your abilities thereafter, chances are they're gonna die. For those looking to play a fun and mobile AP carry in the mid lane, definitely try out Ahri. Now the last pick for the mid lane today is Ziggs, who we have in the A tier. He's pretty strong with amazing wave clear and area of effect damage to carry the game, and since he can consistently throw out bombs to help secure and fight for objectives, Ziggs plays best when he's allowed to comfortably stand far back and then just annoy enemies with his explosives. The issue with the pick is that if the enemy does close the gap on Ziggs, it's pretty hard to navigate his dash and crowd control to escape effectively. This, alongside the nuances of split pushing, make him quite the difficult champion to master, but definitely rewarding in regards to game impact. So here's the full mid lane tier list. Now onto the Dragon lane. Ezreal has been really strong the past couple of patches, making him a highly contested top tier 80 carry in the higher elos. But since his recent nerfs to Arcane Shift, he's not as stable of a pick, making him a B tier to this list. Ezreal's greatest asset in his kit was always his safety, since he can poke the enemy from afar and dodge essentially any crowd control ability in the game with a well-timed Arcane Shift. Increasing the early cooldown on the ability definitely impacts Ezreal a significant amount in lower elos, since his overall safety has decreased. The 80 carry's damage hasn't been touched though, so if you can hit your skill shots with pinpoint accuracy while standing in a secure position, he is still a super strong pick. But without the skill and game knowledge to do so, he definitely falls off. Kai'Sa is up next as an S tier 80 carry pick. She's one of those cases where her kit is easy to use, but hard to master. Acathian Rain is the priority upgrade and skill for Kai'Sa, something that I hope all of you guys know by now. Utilize the broken item, start to evolve Acathian Rain early, and utilize the power spike to snowball your games. Kai'Sa deals a lot of damage if she utilizes her passive, so keep your eye on the passive stacks on your enemies. Since her ultimate can dash her towards an enemy that has been afflicted with crowd control, she excels at immediately following up on a team play. For those looking for a hyper late game carry, Kai'Sa is the pick to go with. And the last 80 carry pickup for today is Xayah in our A tier picks. By flying up, Xayah's ultimate throws out feathers while also granting her momentary invulnerability. She's kind of similar to Ezreal in that she relies on the safety of one of her skills to secure her own position in a team fight. Now for this specific champion, it's really difficult to manage every individual feather that you throw out, which is an essential skill to mastering the Xayah pick. If you manage to position the feathers effectively, they absolutely destroy the enemies, but if you misposition and waste your cooldowns, Xayah is very easily a sitting duck. Mastering Xayah is incredibly rewarding, but if you play her without knowing how to maximize each skill usage, the enemy team will punish you. So here's the full 80 carry lane tier list. Now moving on to supports, Senna is up first in our B tier picks for low elo. The marksman support has been seeing so much play since there's a lot of hype around her. After all, there's an entire Sentinels of Light event going on right now, and she's the newest release that we have at the moment for Wild Rift. When utilizing the right runes and build properly, alongside stacking her souls efficiently, she is super annoying to deal with. The biggest issue is she's very vulnerable to being engaged on. If she gets dove on or locked down, she will almost always die. Greedy support Senna players will often find themselves stuck staring at the death screen, relying heavily on the innate strengths of the champion rather than playing safe and smart. And our second support pick is Leona in the S tier. She's strong, she's hot, and she's pretty beefy. In light of all the buffs that she's been receiving over the course of the last couple of patches, she's pretty strong in the lower elos. Those who find themselves at the unfortunate tip of her blade will get locked down until death. And since she excels at roaming and snowballing that lead to the rest of the map, the Solari makes for a wonderful support pick. She's still quite predictable and easy to avoid with a proper game knowledge, but if Leona catches anyone slipping into a poor position, they're pretty much dead. If you want to play an insane lockdown reliant support who face tanks the enemy, try out Leona. Now our last pick for the day is Rakan in our B tier picks for support. He's not a bad pick with strong engage, mobility, and crowd control, but he's honestly kind of easy to counter. Alistar, Leona, or really any champion that can keep him still in lane renders him essentially useless, since he's so reliant on his mobility to outmaneuver the enemy. The strongest asset in Rakan's kit is without a doubt his ultimate comboed with his second ability, Grand Entrance. Utilize this combo to sneak up on unsuspecting enemies and just keep them charmed and locked down until your allied team can clean up the rest of the kills. Yeah, he's pretty team reliant, but he's also incredibly fun to play thanks to his very satisfying combos. So here's the full support tier list. And that's going to do it for today, everybody. Thanks for watching. Keep in mind that this tier list is for average levels of play, so ranks up to Platinum 1. We have a separate high elo tier list, so make sure to check that out if you're interested. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on our future uploads. That's it for today, so best of luck on the Rift, everybody. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time.